It's been a turbulent ride for Blake Lively, as this lawsuit has done little to help her public image. By now, most people know that Blake Lively's multi-million-dollar legal case has blown up into a full-scale Hollywood controversy. Things have escalated so badly that rumors suggest Taylor Swift isn't even texting Blake anymore, and honestly, who could blame her after getting unwillingly dragged into the chaos? This entire situation kicked off when Blake Lively sued Justin Baldoni, accusing him and his production team of fostering a toxic and vengeful work environment during the filming of It Ends With Us. She alleged that Baldoni made inappropriate moves and actively tried to derail her professional reputation. As many might recall, Justin strongly denied all the allegations and retaliated with a massive $400 million countersuit, claiming defamation and media manipulation by Blake, her husband, and her publicist. Then the whole Taylor Swift angle exploded. Justin's legal team issued a subpoena for Taylor, and it came out that Blake had allegedly pressured Taylor to publicly take her side, or else she'd release private texts. Obviously, this did not help Blake's case. While the subpoena was later withdrawn, the core legal battle between Blake and Justin is still active and continues to unfold with new developments. Just in the past few days, Blake Lively officially decided to drop a major portion of her case, specifically, her emotional distress claims. Her legal team insisted the move was strategic to narrow the focus onto the primary accusations of harassment and retaliation. However, Justin's lawyers interpreted this differently. They believe the change was an attempt to avoid turning over personal records, like mental health documentation and HIPAA-authorized info, which would be required during discovery. Blake's attorneys immediately pushed back, denying the accusations, and calling it a deliberate media stunt meant to tarnish her reputation. They insisted this wasn't about avoiding transparency, but simply about streamlining the case to emphasize the larger legal issues. They also argued that emotional distress remains included in the damages, even if not filed as a standalone claim, and said Justin's side is spreading misinformation to sway both public opinion and the court. Now it's up to the judge to decide whether Blake must hand over sensitive medical data, whether her claim dismissal should be permanent, and if doing so bars her from raising the issue later. The concern is that if dismissed with prejudice, Blake can't bring the emotional distress argument back into play. But if it's without prejudice, she could possibly revisit it during trial or as part of damages tied to the harassment claim. According to Variety, a filing sent to Judge Lehman in the Southern District of New York by attorney Kevin Fritz gives insight into the tense legal back and forth. It reads, Miss Lively cannot play both sides. If she intends to drop these baseless IED claims, the Wayfarer defendants demand a dismissal with prejudice to ensure they cannot resurface later. If Blake refuses that stipulation, they argue she must release her psychological records to proceed. They emphasize that her emotional distress allegations were a central piece of the original complaint Blake filed back in December. Shortly after, Justin sued the New York Times for libel. Since she claimed to suffer emotional and physical harm, Baldoni's lawyers argued she opened the door to scrutiny and must submit related medical records. In their view, she's essentially forfeited patient-doctor confidentiality by making it an issue. So in simpler terms, Justin's team is arguing that Blake can't just back out of emotional distress claims to dodge providing evidence, then try to reference it later. They want her to either submit the documents or lose the right to use that argument altogether. But on Tuesday, the judge issued a decision, denying the motion to force Blake to submit her mental health records, but also withholding permission to dismiss the claims without prejudice. Instead, he ordered both legal teams to sort it out privately. Either agree to the terms of dismissal or Blake must file a formal motion. The judge warned that unless she properly follows legal protocol, she will not be allowed to mention emotional distress again during trial proceedings. So basically, the message was, follow the correct steps or that argument is off the table entirely. Emotional distress isn't even officially part of the case anymore, and the judge is clearly done with any confusion or clever legal maneuvers. He wants a clear decision, and quickly. No more back and forth or loopholes. So now, both sides have no choice but to handle this properly. In the end, we're basically right back where we started. There's been zero real progress in this lawsuit. Blake's team recently filed a request asking the court to stop Justin's lawyers from flooding the docket with what they say are pointless motions. They believe it's all just a PR strategy to damage Blake's image and stir media buzz through misleading claims. Honestly, it seems like both sides are just locked in this never-ending standoff, with their legal teams just as stubborn as they are. There's been talk about a possible settlement, but I've never believed that was even remotely realistic. Just watching how these two sides have been aggressively attacking each other makes it obvious they're not backing down. Blake genuinely seems to feel she's the victim, that Justin ruined her image and should be held accountable. Meanwhile, Justin is firm that Blake sabotaged him and wrecked his name with the New York Times piece. So no, this case isn't heading for any kind of peaceful resolution. And Deadline reported the exact same thing this week. According to them, sources close to both parties told the outlet that there is absolutely no shot at any settlement happening. They said Blake and Ryan have been pulled way out of their usual tightly controlled public personas. And with WME dropping Justin, his career in Hollywood is essentially over now. As I mentioned before, the Blake and Taylor Swift situation has people wondering, is that friendship even fixable now? Last time we talked about how Taylor got subpoenaed, but Justin's team dropped it. Still, it did some damage. And now this week, the New York Post added more details, reporting that Taylor hasn't replied to any of Blake's emotional messages. Apparently, Blake's been pleading with her, saying there must be some misunderstanding. Blake allegedly told her she'd never do anything to hurt the friendship, and that their bond over 10 years means everything to her. But insiders say Taylor feels completely used and betrayed and is totally done. Taylor reportedly hasn't responded to any of Blake's attempts at mending the relationship. Right now, no apology or excuse is going to change her mind, according to sources close to the singer. Blake reportedly thinks Justin is to blame for ruining her friendship with Taylor, but from what fans are seeing, they're holding Blake accountable. They feel like she crossed a line when she allegedly tried to drag Taylor into the lawsuit by threatening to release texts just to support her version of the rooftop scene, and using Ryan and Taylor as her dragons to back her up. It's just a mess. And honestly, some people say they might have felt more empathy for Blake if she'd just been upfront. Like if she came out and said she didn't support Justin's creative direction, wanted more influence over the film, and had her own vision she felt the studio supported. And if she added that she never meant to hurt Justin, it would have seemed more genuine. Same with the press tour. If Blake had admitted she could have promoted the movie more seriously and acknowledged where she misstepped, people might have softened. But instead, it's been denial and blame, mostly aimed at Justin and his team. So many now doubt that he alone destroyed her image, and that skepticism is spilling over into the rest of her claims. This whole thing is chaos, and it's nowhere near over. But that's where things stand for now. I want to hear what you think. This whole court disaster, the Taylor Swift fallout. Drop your thoughts in the comments below.